Hey there, good evening. Nice to see you. And this is the Bronx Buzz. This is Bronx Net's program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors and journalists and people who write about the Bronx so you can find out a little bit about what's going on behind what they write about in the borough of the Bronx. We're going to do that in our first segment. In our second segment, we're going to go to a beautiful choral society in the Bronx. We're going to talk about their upcoming event and help them promote that. But right now, my buddy Emily Swanson, who is they list her as reporter for the Bronx Times. I say she's an ace reporter for the Bronx Times. And nice to see you, Emily, and welcome back to the program.
Of course. Thanks for having me again.
So the community boards weighed in on the Metro North mega project. We've done a number of interviews about it. Um, so why don't we review were these hearings, were these just individual votes? Just give us a little background about what the community board saw that got them to cast various types of votes.
Yeah. Well, the community boards are tasked with giving their advisory input. Advisory meaning it's not binding to anything or anyone, but it does influence, at least to some degree, what the electeds have to say about it going forward. So the community boards were asked to give their opinions about the Metro North project. And right now, the project in general, which is huge, a massive, massive, superly complex project, is under public review right now. And it's all just in like proposal stages. It's nothing is really finalized at this point because city agencies and all the multitude of agencies involved, they are taking public input into account. But it gets a little complicated because the project is, while it does add 4 new train stations to the East Bronx, it's much more than train stations.
Let's go Hunts Point, Van Nest and Parkchester,
Mhm.
Co-op City, and Mars Park.
Right.
I'm
Yep.
going right up the line there. So that's where they are. And so, okay, so you're putting train stations in, but the idea is to have some kind or kinds of developments around those train stations. And of course, in the borough of the Bronx, we've been burned 40 million times over development that just kind of gets created and nobody has input. I think the idea here is to get input and do the right thing.
Yes, yes. The city agencies are very much saying that they are trying to do this in conjunction with the community, not to overwhelm or compete with anything that's already there. They're very much trying on their part to have to make things fit in nicely in a way that also adds to the goals, the city overreaching goals of increasing housing density and creating more open spaces and opportunities for businesses and small
So
businesses.
I thought it was interesting. So let's start with the approval. Community Board 9 liked the idea, according to your story. What was it and why did they like? Now, Community Board 9 is the Parkchester Van Nest station largely. Why did they like it?
Yeah, well, from what I could tell from the public documents, their vote was unanimous yes to support the proposal with conditions. And it looked like a couple of those conditions were actually aimed at increasing the amount of housing. Like basically, it appeared to me that they're in favor of housing density in their area. And that is one of the 2 stations that would be getting additional housing under this proposal. So Parkchester Van Nest and Morris Park are the 2 stations that would be getting housing. The other 2 would not.
Okay, so that's interesting. So the Community Board 9 liked the idea of getting the housing. We're going to show just some mock-ups that we had done with kind of existing and proposed, but they like the idea with conditions. Presumably, they want to have some input into the type of housing. Certainly, the word affordable can't be a phony word. They really want to make it affordable. That goes without saying. But then in Community Board 10, further north and east, they voted against the project. What were their
Mhm.
concerns?
Yep. And CB10 was the only one to vote no outright. And so they were concerned about, like you said, affordability, making sure that it actually is affordable. That means different things to different people, of course.
Right?
Also, they were concerned about building height.
Yes,
Um,
I'm sure they were because many of the homes in that community, of course, are private homes and low level homes. And all of a sudden, if you live in that kind of community, you don't necessarily want buildings like the ones that are right behind me, for
right,
example.
right. And they also said, and they were not the only board to say that they really want home ownership opportunities, not necessarily just rentals. And so yeah, that board voted no.
So they voted no. Now, and again, it's not prohibitive, but it is a very strong statement. Then Community Board 11 approved, though not unanimously, but I thought it was a pretty over what was like,
Yeah,
25 to
25 to 5.
5 or 5 or 6. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
And what was their point of view?
Well, while they did approve it, they were concerned about the same sort of building height issues that CB10 addressed. They wanted a certain zoning cap to basically limit the height of buildings that could be constructed there, whereas the city had proposed more of what they say is a mix of zoning limits. So that could be one issue of contention that they have. Also, like right now, it's a little unclear if anything has changed. There was some strange drama very, very recently, just over the past few days, where it looked like they were going to reverse their recommendation to vote no.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then
This
ultimately,
just in, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, yeah, it was very strange.
Well, because it wasn't in the story you originally wrote. Yeah.
No, no, it was just after that, and then ultimately that got overturned at that same meeting that just happened at the end of last week, where the board chair and vice chair got demoted from their leadership.
Oh, that became another whole thing.
It
So
did. It
so
did.
s right.
The
Well,
board chair was the person who had written the letter about the rezoning, and she also testified at a recent ULURP public hearing
right.
at the borough president's office. So it's all, but I believe that their motion to overturn the recommendation got defeated, and they still
So
are.
that still stands. What I wanna do just with you now, we did this when we did Bronx Talk with, the, head of the, Department of City Planning. We put together the existing look and what a proposal is. So let's look north along Eastchester Road and see. So on the left is, a lot of people know this. I guess this is looking, this is the area right near Albert Einstein College of Medicine. The difference between what you see there on the left and then what the proposal is on the right is rather stark. In
Mhm,
other words, you're talking about taking a whole busy corridor and putting a lot of houses, a lot of buildings in there.
mhm.
And so I could understand some of the concern of people saying, well, wait a minute, how drastically are we ready to change the nature of this community?
Mhm. It really is an ambitious proposal, and it is a lot of big changes that people would very quickly see and feel. And I think it's important to note that, like, especially in terms of the housing, it wouldn't all appear at the same time.
Well, of course, yeah,
That,
it would
yeah, that it would
take
take some time.
take some time to be built. On the other hand, people need housing. You bring more people in, there's much more opportunity for commercial space and commercial, advancement and opportunities. So there you go. All right. So here's another one looking south from the corner of Eastchester Road and Stillwell Avenue. So a lot of people know where that is. There, you could, I guess that's Einstein Medical Center in the distance. This would on the right, it doesn't look like too big change because you've got the parkland there, but on the left, you're really talking about building again a community, a corridor of businesses that wouldn't exist or that don't exist right now.
Mhm. Yep, and you can really see, like, those images on the right, like, just more of the spaces filled in general. There's
Yeah.
up, and a lot of what the city plans to do, well, this Metro North proposal does incorporate the principles of City of Yes for economic development and City of Yes for housing opportunity, and like the idea being like a lot of neighborhoods will have something commercial on the ground floor and then housing above that.
Yes, that is a big city of yes thing to increase the opportunity for commercial space in residential areas. So again, that's in a way the trade. You're going to get those buildings, but you'll get new stores, and of course that means more jobs and it means more commerce, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Um, it will. Let's look at one more. This is looking west along East Tremont from Montgomery Place. And I guess they're talking about putting an aisle in the middle. I saw this one, at least visually, is not as big a change. I mean, some new housing there, but not as big a change. The left side, you know, looks very similar.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know if you have any comments about it, but um, the real question then, Emily, is who then is going to determine this? It's going to ultimately come to the city council, right? And
Mhm.
usually, now it's not a rule, but usually they listen to the local council members.
Usually, yeah. Yep. And it seems at this point that a lot of the local electeds, just in general, are supportive of the project. Heard the same general support from the borough president, but everyone does have concerns, and they're bringing constituents' concerns that should be looked at and answered to in some way. And yeah, the process of public review is ongoing. The Euler process for these zoning changes that would be necessary for the housing proposal or the housing component of it, that takes about 7 months or so. So,
Wow.
so in the coming months, there are going to be more opportunities for public input. There's one actually this Thursday in Parkchester. There's going to be,
Well, the whole idea really is to keep Emily as busy as she can be.
of course, of course,
Cle-
being
Clearly, that's
at a time.
yeah, clearly. And you say over the course of time, it just means we're all going to have more discussions about it. Listen, before you go, I want to just ask you about another story you wrote. I thought this was good news. The Fulton Community Reentry Center opened at the site of a former prison. Now
Mhm.
that's really kind of a nice thing. Just we got about a minute. Give us just a little bit about what that's about. I think people should get some good news in their head here.
Yeah, yeah, I guess the project was over a decade in the making. It took a very long time for basically the state to turn over this facility that had been a prison and now is a reentry center. I think it was 140 people who are recently out of incarceration. They can stay there. They can get their assistance with jobs, build relationships. That's something that I'm sure they've been
Yeah,
lacking.
this is so needed because you can say, well, okay, they were incarcerated, they did something wrong, but if they're back out, we may as well help them rehabilitate and get jobs and start families or do whatever it is that people who are free, not in prison, get to do.
Yeah.
And I just thought this was a really good news. Listen, Emily, we need you. We're so thrilled with the work that you do, and you keep doing what you do, and we'll keep bringing you back here on the Bronx Buzz.
All right, great. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Emily
Appreciate
Swanson, ace reporter for the Bronx Times. Thank you so much.
it. Yes.
All right, folks, we're going to take a short break and then we're going to clear our throats and get along with the Riverdale Choral Society. Don't go away.